Today I'm challenging myself to see if I could write a song in a really unconventional tuning. Most of the time I just stick with E standard, or maybe I'll try drop D, maybe I'll go down a half a step, but I'm really striving for something outside of the box because my hope is that I'll get a really unique result. And how I'm going to get this tuning is I'm going to use a random number generator on Google to get me each of the 6 notes across the 6 strings. I'm setting the number generator from 1 to 12, and 1 through 12 will represent the 12 notes of Western music. So without further ado, let's get started and see what we come up with. All right, so we are coming up with our very first note. Let's see what we get. Okay, we have the number 6. That means our very first note would be a D. Okay, let's do the next lowest string. All right, we have a D sharp for the next lowest string. All right, let's do our third string. Okay, we have an E now. All right, this is getting pretty interesting. Let's do our fourth lowest string. What the Okay. I guess we have an F now. All right, we have 2 more strings. Let's see if this pattern continues. Okay, we have an A sharp. All right, A sharp. We can deal with that. All right, time for our final string, which will be our highest note. Let's see what we get. Okay, that is a D. We're back to a D. All right, very good. Okay, so we have our weird tuning. We have a D sharp, an E, an F, an A sharp, and a D. Let's tune up the guitar and see what that sounds like. All right, so I've had a few days to work with this tuning, and I ended up writing a little song with it. I composed my piece of music on the acoustic guitar, and I used fingerpicks to pluck the strings. Overall, the experience writing in this tuning was pretty fun. I ended up going for something that was quite primitive and calming and vaguely ambient sounding. Before I share it with you, I just briefly want to discuss the quirks of this very unusual tuning. 5 of these guitar strings I only had to adjust at the most a whole step compared back to E standard. However, the 5th string, which is usually an A, I had to bring down quite a bit to make it a D sharp. And that ultimately created a very interesting dynamic where I had 2 low strings that were only separated by a semitone. I briefly considered switching the gauge out on that string to make it a little bit thicker, but I ended up not doing that because I didn't really feel like it, to be honest. But those 2 strings aren't the only 2 that are a semitone apart. As a matter of fact, the lowest 4 strings are all completely chromatic from D to F. However, the E and F were in the next octave, so that was pretty interesting to work around. Something that I really liked about this tuning was the fact that the highest 3 strings actually made a major triad. If you reinterpreted that A sharp string as a B flat, which is its enharmonic equivalent, then you would get a B flat major triad across those 3 strings. And I was able to use that to my advantage. It helped make the piece of music more cohesive and grounded, and I was able to also give it kind of like a droney sound, too. But anyways, those were some of the interesting aspects of this tuning, and like I said, I ended up writing a piece of music with it. I'm going to play that for you now. Enjoy, and let me know what you think. All right, so that was my original song in D, D sharp, E, F, A sharp, and D tuning. What did you think? Leave a comment, let me know if you liked it or not. Overall, I had a pretty fun time writing in this tuning because it was so unfamiliar. Any kind of muscle memory or physicality that I was used to just completely goes out the window. In order to see what sounded good, I had to just feel around the guitar neck and just play random notes. And honestly, there was something really freeing about that approach. But anyways, if you're watching this at home, try this experiment out yourself. Randomly generate some notes for your guitar strings and try and write a piece of music. See what you come up with. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to make more song experiment videos like this very soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.